Hello and welcome back to SpriteGuard Plays HyperRogue. There has been a big update. As you can see, one of the new lands has replaced the land that was near us when we saved, and a couple of our birds have gotten caught in there. So let us see if we can lead them out. It looks like they are getting blown all around, and it's not clear that they can actually escape. So we may have actually just lost them entirely because the wind there seems to be blowing quite strongly. So let's take a look at what is new. This is the first of the new lands, and I don't really know what all is going on here. Windy plains. Someone has put air fans in these plains, causing strong winds everywhere. You think that the purpose is to harness the magical power of air elementals, but you are not sure. All cells except fans are grouped into 3 colors according to a pattern. Wind blows counterclockwise around each group of cells of a single color. Cells which are blocked by walls, or at a distance of at most 2 from an air elemental, do not count for this. It is illegal to move in a direction which is closer to an incoming wind than the outcoming wind. However, you can move 2 cells with the wind in a single turn, and so can the birds. Okay. And that just requires 60 treasure. So it looks like our one of our birds is trapped in there, and it looks like when we go in there, things are going to get a little bit strange. New achievement, reach the windy plains, collect a white dove feather. So, okay, so we cannot actually go against the wind to leave this through this exit. So let's see if we can find another way out. Like if we go like that. Okay, we can go like that. And then can we go like that? We can go 1 step there. And then probably what we want to do is go a step there. Okay, so we can go against the wind that way. It's interesting that that we can't go against the wind to get out of here, though. So I'm wondering, how are we going to escape this place? And if we go over here... Okay, so we can leave through that one. So it's just certain entrances that have the wind blowing in a certain direction. So now, can our bird get out to us? Yes. So it looks like we may have lost one of them for good. Oh, don't go back in there. Why would you do that? Okay, so it looks like we may just end up losing our birds here because things are pretty hectic. I do want to try and find the other land. I think there have been, I can't remember if there are 2 new lands or 3, but let's see if we can get our birds away from there, and then I will take a look at the overview. So the Windy Plains is one of the new ones, and then the Overgrown Woods is one. Let's see, we need 60 treasures, 10 rubies, and the Overgrown Woods are filled with mutant ivies. Okay, so no, that's the old one. I remember that there was something new. The Clearing, which requires 5 mutant saplings. Clearing in the Overgrown Woods, this gives the mutant ivies an infinite space to grow. Mutant fruits rot if they are not adjacent to a mutant ivy. Okay. Interesting. And then I believe there was a Haunted Woods as well. Let's see. Temple of Cthulhu, Graveyard, Haunted Woods. 10 Necromancer's Totems, a dark forest filled with ghosts and graves, but there is also a treasure hidden deep within, but don't let greed make you stray from your path, as you can get lost. So I remember Zeno talking about getting completely lost as an alternate loss condition, which I thought sounded really interesting. And so I want to check that out. So we are going to try and find our way to, let's see, we need to find a jungle, and we need to find a graveyard. And then probably along the way we will lose our birds at some point. And then at that point we can start going into the air. Let's see. Birds are having a little trouble getting past this ivy. So let's see if we can just kind of lead them over this way. And eventually they should be able to work their way through that. And I want to be paying much more attention than I actually am, because the jungle is pretty dangerous, and there's a lot going on around us. Oh, shoot. Okay, I think if I cut that, then I can cut that, and then I can cut that. Okay, had to be really careful, and there we have one of our birds has been killed, and has left a mine. Looks like possibly a couple of them have, because I only see one of them at this point. And that one will probably get itself in deeper than it can handle in not too long. I think it's interesting that the fires don't spread to ivy. That's something that always seemed a little bit off to me, but I guess they are... Because they're alive, I guess they have some moisture in them. I imagine the jungle could be actually quite damp. Especially if it's like a rainforest jungle like the Amazon. So let's see, I believe we need 10 rubies? I want to just check that again. Let's see, overgrown woods. Yes, 10 rubies, okay. And so now, let's see, we have 5. So I'm just going to be pretty careful here and pick up ones that are easy to get to. And what on earth? Oh, there's an orb of safety in the jungle. Wonderful. And its border is a little different than I'm used to. Oh, I think I remember in the patch notes that Xeno did that to make them easier to distinguish, because I had mentioned that they are not always the easiest to tell apart. So we have a gorilla coming up. I want to be ready to fight the gorilla. Looks like it's been blocked off. But if I cut in here and cut that, now we will have to fight it. And we just need one more ruby, and then we can start looking for an exit. So that's really cool that the borders have been changed their shape a little bit. So this one has a saw blade edge, so it's an orb of storms. So the orb of safety is a gear, it looks like, and the orb of storms is a saw blade. And I had always had a little bit of trouble telling those apart in the past. And so that's really cool to see that they now have a way of distinguishing them. And I'm not sure like how good the aliasing is, if I'll be able to tell from really far away. But that's a really neat change. I'm going to see if we can... let's see, we couldn't zap that gorilla, but we did zap some ivy. And so that has cleared things out a little. Let's see. That's a heptagon. So we can go to that safely. And then I'm going to just head over to this orb of safety here. And that will be how we get out of here. And since we have, in fact, lost our birds, we can go into the windy plains and see if we can find ourselves some dove feathers. And let's see, what do we have here? We have one strong wind. I see, so that tells us whether or not we're in the wind. So one thing I thought when I was kind of going over the previous videos was that I should try right-clicking on the prints, and no, it looks like it's just giving us the same help text for the quest as a whole. I thought maybe it might tell us a little bit more about the Prince quest and what constitutes a completion. Let's see. So we can use the strong wind to, let's see, we don't want to fall in a pit. That's a bad idea, but I do want to use the strong wind. Let's see, do we have to shift click? Ah, that's okay, so we have to shift click to use the wind to move yourself further. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, we have 5 of these. I would like to see what the orb for this land is. We killed a wind crow, so that is the creature for this area. Let's see, so we can't go into the kind of contradictory wind. So how are we going to pass out of one area and into the next? It looks like we can kind of cross over in certain places. And so we just have to figure out which of those places we want to go to. And I pressed caps lock instead of shift, so that sent me someplace rather different from where I wanted to go. So let's see if we can take on this wind crow, and I want to check around to make sure that there is not anything else coming up on us, because they can move 2 cells through the wind. So yeah, it looks like if we get onto one of these hexagons, we can transfer over to the wind that's blowing in a different direction. And then we can hop over to this one, and then over here, and then we should be able to use the wind to jump that pit, and then jump over here and get that feather. And that gets us up to 7. And I'm looking around, I see it looks like there's one that's not even blowing in the wind at all. So let's see if we can get that. There we go. And then there's one that is in the wind, but okay, yeah, it is moving with it. It seemed for a moment like it was not, but of course, nothing moves at all unless you move, and so I think that's probably what was happening. So let's grab that. That gets us to 9. And then let's get out of the wind here. So it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out if there's a rule to these. Like, the way that the pits are arranged looks like there is some kind of plan to it, but I'm not sure what that is. And I was not paying enough attention to the birds. Let's see. Can I get there? Okay, good. And then it looks like we should be able to grab this last feather over here, and then we should be able to get out of here. So achievement unlocked, Wind Crow, collect 10 white dove feathers. So now we just want to figure out how to get out of here. And I'm thinking we probably won't be able to get out through this exit here. Yeah, you can't go against the wind, but we can go like that. And now there's actually an air elemental that will actually let us escape this way. And we can kill it, and it doesn't drop an orb of air, which I always thought was a little bit odd. But while we're here, we can start picking up some mirror shards. And I think the next thing that we're looking for is either a graveyard or an overgrown woods. And of course we want to find out what the orb for the Windy Plains is. But I want to kind of go along the edge and be a little bit more careful, because I do want to kind of avoid getting trapped in the winds. So there's an elemental plane, and I believe there was a change made about you had to kill certain elementals to get certain shards. And so we may need to actually do some more, let's see, air shard, water shard. Okay, so it wasn't shards that I was thinking of. It may have been orbs that you find in the elemental planes. I don't really remember, because I read the patch notes, I think a couple of days ago. I read the patch notes when it came out, and it is Christmas Day as I'm recording this, so the update has been out for a little while, and we can use this Orb of Safety to get out of that little bit of combat that was coming up. And now the next thing that we want to do is just gather up some more of these shards, I think. Let's see. Don't want my mimics to collect the treasures because it's very annoying when they do that. And I've actually, once again, kind of neglected some combat, so we're going to have to use mimics to try and take out as much of that as possible. And just remind myself to pay more attention. And since we have this crossroads here, I'm going to see if we can slip into it and just cheese out the last couple of these shards that we want. And that will be the last of them. So now we can head out of here, back into the crossroads. There is an orb of discord and an orb of flash here. So it looks like the attack orbs have the saw blades. And then the orb of discord has this nice kind of cog shape. That's just the three little spokes. Which is kind of a neat shape. I like it. And we can pick that up for some security. We can pick up the orb of discord for a little more security as well. Though that one does not last very long. So the next things we're looking for are a graveyard and an overgrown woods. And we should be able to spawn both of those. I heard a distant squeak. The flash for that squeak was very big. I don't know if that was affected by the orb of flash, or if that was just a change to make them more visible. But we can deal with that. The orb of the frog has an interesting kind of ring shape to it. That's kind of neat. So, let's see. The orb of discord, I believe, comes from the palace as well, and so that's kind of a similar shape for orbs that come from a similar place. And I'm curious to see if other travel orbs have similar shapes. I'm kind of a little bit excited about getting to figure this stuff out. So there's an orb of air, so that is an elemental orb and something that pushes, and it's the same shape as the orb of the frog, which comes from the zebra. So let's see, the orb of air, I believe, comes from the, well, no, it must, let's see, allows you to blow your enemies away. Let's pull up the overview. So the orb of air comes from white dove feathers. Okay. So what does the ocean side now bring? Amber, orb of empathy. Interesting. So let's see if we can unlock that. I'm not really planning on going on a Hyperstone quest, so going to the whirlpool isn't something I'm worried about, so getting ambers is not something I'm worried about. And I believe the tip I got about collecting ambers was less important than I made it out to be. I think that it has a relatively subtle effect on the whirlpool, so we don't have to be too worried about that. I do want to see what the orb of empathy does. And let's see, 765. Oh, that's 5, so there we go. 6. Do want to stay near the shore. Do want to, let's see, avoid as much trouble as I can. And let's see if we can just pick up, let's see, we only need 2 more. Hopefully we can pick those 2 up before the tide comes in. And there we go, but now we actually have quite a lot of combat coming up. And I really don't know, I know that we're on a timer, but I don't know how long we have. And so I was very anxious to get back to the shore. So here's an overgrown woods we can check out. But we also want to keep our eye out for an orb of empathy. So let's see if we can start gathering up some mutant saplings on the way. There's an orb of safety. We also, of course, want to pick up necromancer totems. But there's so many different things that I want to do right now. And so I just want to kind of take a step back and say, okay, we have an overgrown woods right here. Let's start hacking our way into it and see if we can find some ivies to kill for their mutant saplings. And because this one looks like it's very close to going, I want to wait for it to go and then hack to its center. And then I believe I saw one over this way. Here's one over here. There's another one at kind of 2 o'clock. Wait for it to discharge, and then hack your way into it. And of course, unlike the ivies in the jungle, mutant ivies, it is actually useful to cut their arms off. It slows down their growth. And it reduces the number of directions that it grows in, which can be very helpful. There we go. So that is 3. I believe we need 5. And it looks like we have a Crossroads Type 3 coming up here. Don't really want to go into there. I did have Fulgur say to me that for a while, when the Crossroads Type 3 was first released, it actually did have the 2 separate worlds that I mentioned. And then it was later patched in order to have occasional gaps. So we're just going to cut our way. It looks like we actually have 2 that are connected here, and so I want to kind of back off and really approach this strategically. And of course, you kill a troll on top of a treasure, you destroy the treasure. That is something that I should have realized. But never mind, I just need to kind of remind myself that I do need to take a step back, slow down, and make sure that I am paying attention to everything that's going on. And we can just cut our way into the center of this. And there is our 4th mutant sapling. And so now, next one I want to go for is right up here. We're once again going to wait for it to discharge. And then just cut our way in there. There we go. So now that we have 5, we are going to be on the lookout for a clearing. And we can see what sorts of things we can find there. So we want to find a choke point here. And back away, and then start hacking in here. And this one actually has a center, so this is not a clearing. But we do want to continue kind of hacking our way in here, getting more of these mutant saplings, because we haven't actually seen what the orb for this land is yet. And so I want to check. Let's see, we are in the Overgrown Woods. Orb of Luck. So that is not something that we have seen yet. We do have the Orb of Empathy unlocked. So that's something that we will be on the lookout for. We may want to kind of try and find our way to a crossroads, or see if we can at least. Here I want to deal with this ivy, and then just kind of try and get out ahead of it. Try and cut my way to someplace else. We're going to have a little bit of trouble navigating just because the Overgrown Woods are so tight. So tightly grown in that we do want to be careful about kind of making sure that we have time to cut our way through things. So we'll drop into that Orb of Safety, and let's see. There's a Mutant Ivy 0 over there. I was very confused because it kind of looks like a treasure when it doesn't have any branches. And that is very quickly going to start growing, and it looks like we have stuff coming from a couple different directions. So we want to create a choke point here, And then it looks like this troll is even going to let us block that off even more. And then we have another one of these coming up. And yet another. And this is actually getting a little bit dangerous. So this one's going to come up, and I am actually really worried. So this one we can actually choke off here, and then that one. And then we want to hack through here, and that will create a choke point. And I'm wondering if we want to actually try escaping into the desert, just to have a little bit more room to maneuver, and so I want to check and make sure that we don't actually have any spice. And it looks like we do not. So this will be a relatively safe space for us to escape into, but we do still want to be on the lookout for a clearing. It seems like they're not as common as temples are, but it is very possible that we just move much more slowly through the overgrown woods. And so it could be that they are as common as temples, and we're just covering much less ground. So let's head back in here and see if we can find our way to a clearing. Let's see, we have another troll coming up, a couple more trolls coming up. Looks like an ivy coming from the upper right. No, it can't get to us, so we are fine here. We have an emerald mine, and we have quite a lot of ivies growing around us. Here's one that we will need to... Oh dear, okay. Run for a choke point, and then just try and cut your way through a couple more choke points, and then we can kill this troll to get it off of our backs. So we now have 6 of these mutant... I do want to check again. Having this is so very convenient. Yeah, so we have unlocked clearing. We have unlocked and the mutant fruit and the orb of freedom. Interesting. So let's see. A clearing in the overgrown woods. So that should be available to us, and it's just a matter of finding it. And there is one right there. So I believe, okay, so it looks like because of the more open space, it uses the rules that when they're not in the overgrown woods, the mutant ivies can only grow on hexagons, similar to the rock snakes. And that kind of makes them a little bit more possible to deal with. They would be extremely difficult to deal with if not for that rule. And they are still dangerous for sure. And we need to figure out a way of cutting our way into these fruits without letting them rot. And that's going to require some careful planning, because we have some... Okay, new achievement. Reach the clearing, collect a mutant fruit. And then we can cut that and just be real careful there. And that actually destroyed the fruit that I was going for. So they rot very quickly. But we can step in there and then kill that part of it. And it's just this great big branching tree structure, so we have killed 985 mutant ivy parts, which is pretty impressive, pretty cool. Let's see, that's going to destroy that fruit. So that's something we have to be careful about, is figuring out the tree structure and figuring out whether or not we're going to destroy the fruit that we're trying to get to. And of course, whether or not we're going to destroy the ivy part that we're trying to defeat. And I don't actually know how big these clearings are. I don't know if they are circular or if they are horocyclic. I think they are horocyclic because I think I remember that the mutant ivies are infinite. And so we do want to be a little bit careful about... we shouldn't be at risk of getting lost, because in a horror cycle, every path is going to take you to the edge, except for one that takes you closer to the center. So we shouldn't have to worry about that. Just like in the Caribbean, it should be much easier to work our way out than it is to work our way in. So we just want to take these one at a time, fight them off, and then let's see, this one is going to start growing over this way, and we can grab that and then kill that, and then we just want to fight these one at a time, kill that, and then that. And then if we kill like something over here, okay, so that will leave us that fruit, but we need to fight still these. And it looks like we're still going to have quite a bit of trouble fighting these guys. And it looks like we are maybe being a little bit more reckless than is wise. I'm actually noticing that we're getting pretty well surrounded sometimes. So getting these fruits is turning out to be really challenging. And I'm actually going to hack my way out here, and then come back in and try again. And I don't think fruits actually spawn natively here. And it looks like we have a small mutant ivy that has found its way into the clearing and is now going to kind of complicate things. But hopefully not too much, because it's basically going to be the same thing. But boy, I really need to be kind of on the ball if I'm going to make any progress here. And I'm probably going to need to cut things a lot deeper if I'm going to make any progress here, because they just keep getting pushed back out to the edge. And so we may want to go around the outside. Now, when we go around the outside, because it's a circle, we're going to have kind of the problem that we're not going to make any progress. So I'm going to ditch out of there. We got 3 mutant fruits, and I want to see the help text. It's just the help text for the area, not for the treasure. I guess I don't actually know that treasures have their own help text. I just remember that the help text for the Overgrown Woods mentions why mutant saplings are valuable. But I guess the mutant fruit is the reason that the mutant saplings would help us get more food. So I just realized I've actually been playing for a very long time and have been thoroughly distracted, and so this is going to be a much longer episode than I wanted. So I'm going to start focusing on getting my way out of here. And we still have a lot of things that we need to see. Still have a lot of things that we have not yet seen. And so we are going to be coming back and continuing our long and strange adventure. But for now, I am going to try and find my way to an orb of safety either here or in the crossroads, and then we are going to wrap this up. So we just need to find... I was finding so many orbs of safety when I didn't want them, and now, of course, I'm not seeing them. And we're getting chased around quite a bit by the ivies. But we just need to stay ahead of them. It looks like we're getting quite a lot more trolls than we were when we had fewer treasures. And here is a crossroads type 2, so hopefully, there we go. That is an orb of storms. So let us see if we can find our way to an orb of safety. So we have some treasures to gather from some of the other lands, because it seems like a lot of the treasures or the orbs have been kind of shuffled around. And so I will need to kind of look into that and figure out what things we still need in order to get all of the new orbs that have been added, since we have all of the new orbs that we have not seen, regardless of when they were added. But for now, we really just want to find our way to an orb of safety so that we can put things on hold. So yeah, that is, I think, a recent-ish change, that the mouse squeaks have gotten a lot more visible. Let's see, we do not have the Orb of Discord with us anymore. We have some pretty dangerous combat coming up, so want to deal with it. There's a ghost, and then these skeletons. That skeleton will actually block in that palace guard for a while, though. And so we have an opportunity to try and get out of its aggro range. We didn't quite manage to do it, but we have gotten pretty far. And so I guess the next thing to do is, well, orbs of safety are going to be native to the Land of Eternal Motion, and so we can escape here and look for one in its native habitat, though I found that they're actually pretty rare in the Land of Eternal Motion. They're not that much more common than they are. I think they might even be more common in the Crossroads. It's hard to tell. But usually they are so abundant, and I am just not seeing one. We can pick up an Orb of Air just as an insurance policy, because it could get us out of trouble. So here we have an Orb of Safety in the Zebra, which seems very dangerous to me. The Zebra is an area that I really have trouble dealing with. And I'm just going to blow these guys a little bit away. It looks like we did eventually escape that skeleton somehow. I don't remember how, but we did manage to do it. Let's see, what's this over here? Orb of Life. We can have a golem come along with us and do some fighting for us. We definitely want to stay away from the hive. I have managed to trigger hive aggro from outside of the hive when you have a nest coming up onto... Oh, did I accidentally kill my golem? That's too bad. I'm really not paying enough attention, which is another reason why these very long episodes really are not a good idea. So thank you very much for sticking it out with me. We will be looking at the other new stuff in the game in the next part of this episode. Part 8 is coming up. I am so excited. This is the longest run in this game I have ever had. We have 119 treasures, 226 kills. So I have had higher scoring runs, but never spent this many episodes and this much time exploring the world, and there's just so much more to explore now than there ever has been before. I'm really amazed at how much stuff Xeno keeps adding to this game, and it's really a delight to keep playing this and keep seeing more and more get added. And, it's really getting to the point where I'm, having trouble remembering what all is in the game, and I love that. That just thrills me. So, we will have a lot to discover. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.